welcome to Vantage Point. I'm your host, or your co-host, Marcia Boyles, and I'm delighted this morning to, again, we're going to be having a program that is a really continuation of the same topic we have been following for several programs, including our partner program, That's Life. I'd like to begin by introducing my co-host and co-producer, Kathleen Taylor, who is our social work manager.
Hey.
And Kathleen, I'm going to turn the program over to you. This is your area of expertise.
Wow. Ooh, the power. So yeah, we're really happy today to have Dave Anderson and Marie Lee here to help us with that conversation that we've been having about living with disability here on campus. Dave has taken the lead in the community to pull those of our residents with Parkinson's together to be able to provide education and support. And Marie is really such an active voice in helping the community understand the challenges of living with hearing loss. So we're really happy to have you guys here, and I know you're going to add a lot to the conversation. Just a little, just a little background is that, as Marcia was saying, we've done a couple of programs on disability, and I think, what we kind of distilled the question down to is we have often asked ourselves who we are as a community, and I think we just added to that who we are as a community when some of our residents are experiencing and living with some form of disability or another. So how do we support each other? How do we learn from each other? I think that's the basic conversation. And I know both of you, maybe just to start, are doing a lot of different things, but you're, working with support groups as well, which I think is just an amazing contribution. So let me start. I'm going to start with Marie, because I know you had shared with me a question that someone had asked you, which is, why a support group? What's the point of support groups? And you had some pretty good answers, so I would love for you to share that with us.
Well, when you're diagnosed with a disability, in my case, it was a little bit of fear. What am I going to be facing as I go through my life? And I think also that a support group is able to educate you about your disability, and also to give a common face, possibly somebody that is familiar to you, someone you can get to know, and someone you can trust, and someone who is experiencing possibly the very same problems that you are with your disability, and is able to just pretty much hold your hand, not physically, but emotionally, hold your hand through this process. And my hearing has gone down since I was 29, so for more than half of my life I have lived with this disability. And of course I was very frightened at first, and you're in denial. Well, I don't really have this serious a problem because I can still hear now. But when the doctors say that over your lifetime you're going to be losing your hearing, then as you get older you realize that they were right, and now what do I do? So I've been able to cope, I feel, very well with devices. When I moved to Green Spring, I noticed that there were many people who were not hearing me when I spoke to them. And so almost immediately I went to the community resource person, Kelly Luxander, and said I would like to start a group for hearing support for those with hearing loss. And she said, that would be terrific. And I keep in touch with my group, not only with the meetings that I have every other month, but through email messages. And when I find something in the news, or I find some research that I feel would be interesting, when I find a funny video, or just something to enhance their life, so to speak, with hearing loss. And then I try to share it with them. So, I mean, as I was walking here to the studio this morning, I saw one of the people in my hearing loss group, which is an open group, by the way. Anyone at Green Spring can come to my meetings and join our group. But I had someone walk by, and instead of speaking to me, she just said, and my last program was on reading lips.
Yeah.
And so she was testing me to see if I could read her lips. And,
That's
I
great.
gave her the thumbs up. And I thought that was very appropriate for an entry to the program this morning. So,
Yeah, well, that's perfect.
Yeah, so
Yeah. And I know one of the things we always talk about is, humor is also a big part of being able to cope with a disability to a certain extent, which probably brings me to Dave because
Could I ask
Yeah.
Marie a question? When we had talked before, you had mentioned that there were, I think, 80% of people 80 and over who have hearing loss. Was that the correct figure?
there are the American Academies of Medicine have done research, and many of the different groups, Hearing Loss Association of America, they do these studies to determine at what age people lose their hearing. And so I follow those. And usually at age 70, there is some measurable loss. But over age 85, there is a tremendous amount of
Over
hearing
85,
loss. Yes. And so,
And was it 80%, Marie? Do I
Well,
remember that you had?
yes, well, I feel
indicate
when
that?
I compare those research figures to the number of people here at Green Spring based on their age groups, that probably we have 80% of our population who have measurable hearing loss. Many have not admitted it yet. They try to cope.
But that's an
actually,
astonishing number, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And when you lift that, when you finally admit that you have hearing loss and get that weight off of your shoulders, you can begin to enjoy life at Green Spring and not hide from your disability.
yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, great. I think, Dave, you have some of the same experiences with your Parkinson's group and that Marie was talking about.
Right, but we're starting.
I was starting with humor.
What was it about humor?
That's right, because I know I have your business card, which says Swedish. What is it? Swedish humor all the time.
Swedish humor all the time. We'll get in trouble for you.
That sounds scary.
That's part of it.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, one of my old bosses told me that you're going to die from something. And I'm not saying that people are dying to get into Green Springs, but let's face it, that's a reality, and we all have some disability that we're coping with for the most part, and Parkinson's is one of those. We know statistically that there's probably about 90 to 100 people living here with Parkinson's disease. And so our whole method is to try and get in touch with as many of those people as we can and offer some program that we think would be exciting and of interest to those folks, and put that on as a program. And then when they come to the program, to be able to mix with other people with the same malady. And this is what we call the outreach. And I think it's working very well. We've found now that word of mouth is such that we're expanding our monthly group is getting bigger. Our dinner that's coming up on the 21st of August is nearly sold out.
How big a group do you normally have, Dave, at your meetings?
Well, we were getting maybe 10 or 12 people at one of the meetings a year or so ago. And I think at the last meeting, we had over 30.
Is that right?
Yeah. So it's expanded, and the reason is a lot of help from Green Spring employees and people who are interested in seeing that the Parkinson's population gets some help. And I'm excited about it. It's just wonderful. I've been in medicine 50 years, And I still get a big bang out of seeing somebody laugh as well as somebody get better.
Absolutely, yeah. I know you had said, you know, you can go to the dining room every day and never run into people that you
That's
have things
true.
in common with.
That's
But
true.
when the support groups, you're automatically, you know, there's a common ground almost automatically, which you can build from at that
Right.
point.
Well, you know, if I put my hands up here, you'd see that I have some symptoms. I'm hiding them down here. But we don't want people to hide out because they have Parkinson's. We feel they should be out and among the residency of this great population we have here and enjoy themselves and not be afraid of the fact that they have Parkinson's disease. And that's what I think we're accomplishing, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Thank you.
Not feel like you have to hide away in your
That's true.
apartment
Yeah.
because you don't feel, you know,
Well,
I guess
Michael J.
comfortable
Fox
going
is
out.
a good example.
He is a great
was
example,
not
yeah.
afraid to show that he indeed had Parkinson's, and it's come back to be a thing that really gained him additional fame and a lot of respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to what Marcia said in the previous program, that when she was in her EMV, that she felt that people didn't want to talk to her because
Sometimes.
that sometimes people didn't want to, especially people that maybe you didn't know.
It was always people I didn't know.
Exactly. And
Never.
so I feel like people know that I have hearing loss. I don't want them to walk by me without saying good morning, thinking that this woman isn't going to hear me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the same with Dave. If people say, well, I don't want to have dinner with Dave, or I don't want to, you know, whatever it is
Sure.
because of the disability, there's some fear also of the people that you encounter each day, that how is this going to impact my own life if I get together with this person, and whether it's a meal or a meeting or whatever it may be. So
Right.
I think we have to understand that we're all here together, and whatever it may be, it's not just old age. It may be something else you may come here just perfectly, and I use the word normal. You may come here perfectly normal, but you're over 62. But as you age, we don't know what we might come up with. And I think we have to recognize that among the residents.
I think you hit on two of the really critical points here. One is the sense of isolation that one can sometimes feel with almost any disability, whether it's hearing or vision or Parkinson's or whatever. I think disabilities just tend to be isolating. And the other is the discomfort on the part of other folks with your disability, which you're also alluding to, Marie. So I think those are two very important points.
Yeah, they're very intertwined for sure.
For sure.
And I think some of what we had talked about in one of the other shows too was just sometimes it ends up being your responsibility to help people feel more comfortable with your disability. You know, it ends up being a little bit on you because people do have that, you know, I don't know what the right word is, but definitely it was a discomfort with knowing what to expect and how to approach the person.
Sure.
And how much to talk about it even, you know. So I think if you can, you kind of help that person to feel it's okay, you're comfortable talking about what's going on with you, that always ends up being helpful at some level.
That's an excellent point. And your notion that so many of us are in denial about it, then you're not comfortable yourself with it. And so I think that all comes together, doesn't it?
Right, right. I don't know, Dave, does Michael J. Fox talk about shame? Is that one of the words that he uses?
Shame?
Shame.
Yeah, I don't know whether he does or not, but there's like a lot of psychological work that's done around shame and how debilitating it can be if you don't feel that you're good enough. And I think that because normal, you know, is so important in our society, that a lot of people, the first reaction can be, this is happening to me, I'm ashamed, because somehow you take responsibility for this has happened to you. You must have done something wrong or something.
Well,
you know?
I think a little bit, Kathleen, that we still really don't know what caused our brain to function in the way it does to cause Parkinson's. Truly, we don't know a lot about the brain function for that matter. I mean, we know much more than we did 10 years ago, but it's still a mystery. We know how we can fix it on a temporary basis with medication, but we haven't come up with a cure. And I think there is a certain amount of shame. How did we get, why did we get this disease?
Right.
If we're a religious person, we might say, well, why did God give this to me? Well, I don't know the answer to that, but hopefully our outreach group will touch on trying to bring those people out of that shame if they have it, and to mingle with other people with Parkinson's, and then be able to go out into the greater community here and share other things that we have. We have so many great programs here.
You
It
do.
just blows my mind. I think 2,000 some things in a month. I don't know, it's a tremendous number.
That's exactly right.
So-
So just go, right?
Yes.
Just do it.
Get going.
Just do it. But and to that point, I know you guys both have a lot of proactive things that you are giving the people that are at the support groups in terms of ideas. I know a lot of technology, sort of from the hearing loss side, and a lot of adaptive techniques, including, I know exercise is huge for Parkinson's
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So I feel like you're kind of rooting for each other and coaching each other to go ahead and take that next step.
Well, we have some wonderful providers here. We have a follow-up to a thing that we had on wellness. We had Juanita Kuntz, who is our wellness coordinator here, and she presented a couple months ago, and everybody was so enthused with what they could do in the exercise program. I think we all went out and signed up and got going. Well, she's going to come back now and see just how enthused. So we have on the 21st of September, on Thursday, we're going to have from 1:30 to 2:30, Juanita's going to come back and check and see how we did, and probably give us a grade. I don't know.
And hopefully
Keep
a
on
little
track.
pep
A
talk
little
to
pep talk.
keep going.
Yeah. She's a wonderful person, very gifted in this area, and so we're so lucky to have her here at Green Spring.
Yeah, and I think you guys do that for each other too. I think that's sort of part of the support group, is just to coach and cheerlead each other when you're getting through a rough spot or whatever. That's awesome. I think that's so good. So is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, we have a dinner coming up. It's the 200th anniversary of Dr. Parkinson not naming the disease Parkinson, that came later, but for him to actually wrap it up into a nice medical terms that modern medicine could appreciate, and he called it shaking palsy.
So it's been 200 years since Parkinson's was described.
Yes.
In terms of its symptoms.
Yes, right.
Wow.
1817, it was described as shaking palsy. Later on, a Dutch physiologist named it after Dr. Parkinson in his honor and called it Parkinson's
Was
disease.
he an English
Yes, he
physician?
was. He was an English surgeon, actually. And he was the son of a very, very prominent English surgeon. And they were well known in London.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is amazing.
Well, I know I want to get back to Maria a little bit too, that you've been doing a lot. I mean, I think you've been doing a lot of advocacy in the community in terms of trying to make more accommodations for people that have hearing loss. And I think that that's really benefiting the community for sure, both in education and in actual positive outcomes. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, yes, I'm not afraid to step out of line, so to speak.
I love that
and,
about you.
And so I mean, I've asked for meetings with our executive director over a year ago, and also with the previous executive director, and just said, there are so many people here with hearing loss, but we don't have any accommodations except for these little FM receivers. And in the theater, we have about 9 of them that work. And we have 1,600 residents. And if we filled the theater, there are 224 seats, but we have only 8 receivers. So I said, we really need to be doing something for that. And
Have they increased the number, Marie?
no, they haven't increased the number, but what we did, I found a company that would offer them for less than half. And so about 2 or 3 times a year, I put up a sign that says, I'm going to put in an order. And if you'd like to have your very own receiver, go ahead and order one. It's about $100. So right now there have been about 60 people who have bought their own receivers.
Is that right?
Which is really good because they have their own, they can keep it clean, they can keep the batteries going, and I offer to help them change the batteries or whatever it may be. So that's really the one accommodation that we have. But what I try to do is to tell them what else is available at Green Spring. Many of our residents do not know that we have an audiologist who comes to Green Spring every Friday. And she has been coming for over 12 years. And so I'm in close contact with Dr. Gina Cravato. And if I have a question that someone has asked me, I sometimes will run it by her and say, you know, how do I respond to this? Most of them I can respond to, but I encourage people to not listen to your neighbors about your hearing loss, because no one has the same type of hearing loss. They're all very different. And even the causes of them are very different. So get a hearing test. Go down to our audiologist, make an appointment. It's covered by Medicare most often. And find out where your hearing is. And if you do need assistance, then move on from there. And for a long time, sometimes people, because most of our hearing loss here at Green Spring is age-related, you might be able to bluff your way through for a little while, but it gets to the point where if you're pulling yourself out and getting a takeout meal instead of socializing at the dinner table, that's when you really need to start finding out if a hearing aid would help you. And believe it or not, hearing aids do help people, but you have to wear them. They don't help you if they just sit in the drawer until it's time to go to dinner and then you pop it in, because your brain has to learn how to hear with the hearing aid. And so I encourage people to put their hearing aids in the morning after bathing and leave them in until they go to bed at night. And if you do that for 2 weeks, I think you'll find that your brain has had a little time to get accustomed to that. And from then on, you won't want to go without it. So that's one bit of encouragement that I give to the people who come to the meetings. And
yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I think that both you and Dave are talking about the same thing a little bit in terms of people taking responsibility for themselves.
Yes, you have to.
Because I think that the struggle sometimes is you feel helpless, you feel hopeless, you kind of get in that mode where, you know, if somebody's not doing something for me, I don't feel empowered to be able to do it for myself. And I think both of you are saying the same thing, that you have to take that responsibility and move forward and, you know, get the education, get the information.
Could I tie in
act.
a little bit with the hearing thing? We know that Parkinson's people, of course, have their average number of hearing loss, but it's actually twice as much in the age group we normally see here at Green Spring. And we're having Dr. Cravato, thank you, speak to our group about the relationship of Parkinson's and hearing loss. So that's nice. We tie that in, and it appears there is some connection between the cochlear hearing loss.
Yes,
and
yes.
greater amount
There's
of
an
people.
effect in the cochlea for people who have Parkinson's disease. It's not the other way around. It's not that people who have hearing loss are going to develop
Right,
Parkinson's.
exactly.
It's that people who have Parkinson's are more likely to develop hearing loss. And I think that's a great tie-in. And Gina would be, you know, she'll be a great speaker at your meeting.
She's going to speak in November.
We'll help people feel more comfortable.
Yep.
I find that myself. My group has grown considerably, especially the people that I contact through email or cubby stuffers. And I think I'm now up to almost 300 residents.
Oh, my
Here.
heavens.
That's
I had
impressive.
no idea.
So I started with none, and
Oh,
in 2 years
Marie,
I'm at
that is
300.
incredible.
Just
But my
fantastic.
meetings usually are about, well, this time I had almost 100 come to the meeting in the theater.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I was really pleased to see that. And even when I asked questions that I asked at the first couple of meetings about how much you're wearing your hearing aid, I see a much greater response. So the message is getting out there.
I
But
think
one thing
I think you are personally doing a lot of poking of
well,
folks.
you know, we do have someone within Greenspring General Services, a new program manager, Jason Mitchell, who has been tasked with working on hearing loss accommodations. And so my husband and I met with him, and we gave him some suggestions. We want to carry on the meeting. We don't want them to just jump in and do something without giving it some careful thought that what would be the best accommodation to make and affect the most residents. Because if you, for instance, if you would put access to a T-coil in, do people know that they have a T-coil in their hearing aid? Or how many people know how to work the T-coil in their hearing aid? Different things like that. So, but one thing Dave said was that you sometimes say, why me? And of course, we've all asked that, why me? And the answer to that question is because of what you're doing and because of what I'm doing. I have decided that that's why. That's why I was meant to go out and help other people with this disability. And I think that satisfies me to know that that's why that I have this hearing loss.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, that's a really perfect way to wrap it up. I noticed that we're out of time, but I just want to say you guys are such good examples of how personal commitment can really be catalyst for positive change. You're doing it every day.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks.
One thing we might want to also mention is that there is one more support group that probably should be mentioned, which is the low vision group.
There is the low
Yeah.
vision group as well. That's right. So
The two of you really are amazing and have done incredibly good work here.
Well, we're retired.
But
you have all that energy now.
I thought I was
for
coming here to
others.
play horseshoes.
Yeah.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
You can't help yourself, though, can you? So anyhow,
That's it.
thanks so much.
You're welcome.
I'm sure
Thank
people learned a lot. So it's my job now to do the closing announcements. So special programming, Elizabeth Von Trapp concert, 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. And Garden Ridge goes to chapel at 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. today. And then the weekend Village in Motions will be encores of the week's Village in Motions, and those are going to be on Saturday and Sunday, 9:30 through noon. And the chapel feature is the Washington Metro Youth Orchestra. That will be Saturday and Sunday, noon and 5 p.m. And the weekend feature is the Korean War, and that will be Saturday and Sunday, 2 p.m. And Video Time Machine is Intelligence in the Pacific with Bob Peterson, and that's going to be shown Saturday and Sunday at 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. The weekend concert is Chorister's Everything Coming Up Roses, 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday on Village in Motion is the Dining and Pastoral Ministries updates and Spotlight on History with John Lee.
Yay.
So again, thanks you guys for coming. It was a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
riding on that new river train, riding on that new river train, the same old train that brought me, gonna carry me away again. Hello folks, I'm Gray Parks, your Green Spring troubadour, and today I celebrate the birthdays of Porter Wagner, Buck Owens, and Connie Smith. Porter Wagner was born in West Plains, Missouri on August 12, 1927. He died in Nashville on October the 28th, 2007. He was a popular country music singer known for his flashy nudie and Manuel suits and blonde pompadour. In 1967, he introduced an obscure singer, Dolly Parton, on his long-running television show, and they were a well-known vocal duo through the late 1960s and early 1970s. Porter charted 81 singles from 1954 to 1983. He was elected to the Country Music Hall of Fame. To celebrate his birthday, I will sing a song he often sang on his television show, The Carroll County Accident. It reached number 2 in 1968. Carroll County is pointed out as kinda square. The biggest thing that happens is the county fair. I guess that's why it seemed like such a big event, what we all call the Carroll County accident. The wreck was on the highway just inside the line. Walter Browning lost his life and for a time. It seemed that Mary Ellen Jones would surely die. She lived long enough for her to testify. Walter Browning was a happy married man, and he wore a golden wedding ring upon his hand. But it was gone, nobody knew just where it went. He lost it in the Carroll County accident. Mary Ellen testified he flagged her down, said he was sick and could she drive him into town. No one even doubted what she said was true, 'cause she was well respected in the county too. I went down to see the wreck like all the rest, the bloody seats, the broken glass, the tangled mess. But I found something no one else had even seen, behind the dash in Mary's crumpled up machine. A little matchbox circled by a rubber band, and inside the ring from Walter Browning's hand. It took a while to figure out just what it meant, the truth about the Carroll County accident. By dark of night I dropped the ring into a well, and took a sacred oath that I would never tell the truth about the Carroll County accident, 'cause the county ordered Dad a marble monument. I lost him in the Carroll County accident. Buck Owens was born August 12, 1929 on a farm in Sherman, Texas, and he died on March 25, 2006 in Bakersfield, California. He was a musician, singer, songwriter who had 21 number 1 hits on the Billboard country music charts with his band, the Buckaroos. They pioneered what came to be known as the Bakersfield sound, a reference to Bakersfield, California, the city that Buck called home. Merle Haggard was also from Bakersfield. Beginning in 1969, Buck co-hosted the TV series Hee Haw with Roy Clark. He left the cast in 1986. Buck is a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame and the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame. And to celebrate his birthday, I will sing a number 1 hit in 1963, Love's Gonna Live Here. Oh, the sun's gonna shine in my life once more. Love's gonna live here again. Things are gonna be the way they were before. Love's gonna live here again. Love's gonna live here. Love's gonna live here. Love's gonna live here again. hear bells ringing, I hear birds a-singing, love's gonna live here again. I hear bees a-humming, and I know the day's a-coming, love's gonna live here again. Love's gonna live here, love's gonna live here, love's gonna live here again. No more loneliness, only happiness, love's gonna live here again. Yeah, love's gonna live here again. I have sung a lot of Burl Ives songs, but I haven't sung Hullabaloo Belay, which was on his records of folk songs in 1949. The man that's mentioned in it was named Shallow Brown, and he was a natural person. He was a notorious boarding house owner who would charge sailors 3 months in advance and then work with the ship's captains to force them back on the ships, and he kept the money. So this is called Hullabaloo Belay. Me mother kept the boarding house, hullabaloo belay, hullabaloo blah belay, and all the boarders were out to sea, hullabaloo belay. There was a young fella called Shallow Brown, hullabaloo belay, hullabaloo blah belay, followed me mother all round the town, hullabaloo belay. When father was on the crown, hullabaloo belay, hullabaloo blah belay, me mother ran off with Shallow Brown, hullabaloo belay. My father says, young man, me by, hullabaloo belay, hullabaloo blah belay, to which I quickly made reply, hullabaloo belay. Me father slowly pined away, hullabaloo belay, hullabaloo blah belay, 'cause me mother came back the next day, hullabaloo belay. Connie Smith was born in Elkhart, Indiana, August 14th, 1941. She's widely considered to be one of country music's best female vocalists. In 1965, Connie Smith officially became a member of the Grand Ole Opry. All of Connie Smith's singles released between 1965 and 68 reached the top 10 on the country chart. Despite her success, Connie is considered by some music critics to be one of the most underrated vocalists in country music due to the decision not to pursue superstardom with the non-country general media market like such contemporaries as Loretta Lynn, Dolly Parton, and Tammy Wynette. Artists such as Parton, George Jones, and Shelley Wright have cited Connie Smith as either one of the best vocalists in the music industry or their favorite female artist. In 2002, Country Music Television ranked her number 9 of the 40 top female singers. She is currently married to Marty Stewart and appears on his program every Saturday night at 8 p.m. on RFD-TV, which is channel 345 on our DirecTV lineup. She also appears regularly on the Grand Ole Opry. To celebrate her birthday, I will sing One Day at a Time, which was written by Chris Christopherson. It will also be my song of inspiration for today. You know, Chris Christopherson also wrote Why Me, Lord, which is a beautiful song, and I think this song is very close to it. I'm only human. I'm just a man. Help me believe in what I could be and all that I am. Show me the stairway that I have to climb. Lord, for my sake, help me to take one day at a time. One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking of you. Just give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. Lord, help me today, show me the way, one day at a time. Do you remember when you walked among men? Well, Jesus, you know, if you're looking below, it's worse now than then. Pushing and shoving, crowding my mind. So for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. One day at a time, sweet Jesus. That's all I'm asking from you. Just give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. Lord, help me today, show me the way, one day at a time. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my songs today. Till next Friday, right after Village in Motion, this is Gray Park saying so long, and I'm leaving on that new river train. I'm leaving on that new river train. The same old train that brought me is gonna carry me away.